Does anyone remember Fallout 76? Of course you do. It was notoriously one of the worst games ever made on the Xbox One, made by a large developer. And they later had the gall, the absolute gall, to introduce a £13 a month or £100 a year subscription. But, surprisingly enough, this game has actually been getting updates. I kind of assumed they would have just taken the money and ran away. So, I decided to play this game again and see if it's still quite as janky. Oh, and also, while the title does say 2023, this was actually recorded in really late 2022 just so I could get the video out on time. Sue me. Without further ado, let's get into it. We first get treated to the funny haha Fallout line.
War. War never changes.
And then I realised I was in the wrong goddamn room.
But not everyone will be saved. Those chosen to enter this vault must be our best and our brightest.
But considering the alternative, which is getting blown to smithereens, I somehow doubt I'll mention anything, to be honest. Well, 25 years of wondering if Fidel Castro killed the Queen later, and it's now time to leave in the glorious year of 2104. Oh. I think we might have overslept a bit. We were supposed to leave in 2076. Ewick. Well, anyway, we can't leave before playing with the physique triangle, the most fun part of any Fallout game. Also, as is typical with the worst games in a franchise, they added in a photo mode, which you need to use to take an ID photo. But, frankly, I don't believe in passports all too much, so I decided to give them a crotch shot and play some of the very best holotape game around. Though it's also the only holotape game in the vault, and even after all my time here, I still have absolutely no fucking clue how to play it. Also, we're supposed to be released 25 years after the bombs dropped in the game's lore, right? You know, Vault 76, that's where the name comes from, which means that we should have left in 2076. And supposedly, according to this terminal, they were supposed to turn off the air 24 hours after the date we were supposed to be released. Yeah, well, it's 2104 now, and I'm still breathing, so I assume they just forgot to do that? Genuinely though, like, why in the hell would you make the whole gimmick being set around a specific date with the vault supposed to stop working after a specific time in an online game where the goddamn date and time moves forward and you can always see it on your bloody Pip-Boy? Jesus Christ, I've already not got a good feeling about this and we haven't even really started the game yet. Oh, and also I was reading about how the remaining nukes had to be secured because we couldn't let the area be further destroyed and stuff like that on the little terminal thing. And less than 3 minutes later, someone launched a nuke. Bethesda Game Studios, ladies and gentlemen, their world setup has no flaws at all. Oh, and also, we get access to perk cards in this game, which are basically this game's skill point system. And personally, I bloody hate the system, but some people like it, so hey-ho. Upon leaving the vault, I met some of these guys, who have got to be the least intimidating people in the apocalypse. Because, goddamn, these guys were just so annoying. Oh, and also here we get Todd Howard showing off his brilliant NPC dialogue, as when I lied to them about the big one, they said they weren't going to tell me about the big one, because I lied to them. Wow. Branching choices. But then I asked them for a weapon, and they just straight up gave me a machete because they felt bad for me because I didn't have a weapon. Although I literally had a 10mm pistol equipped. How have these people survived so far? We then scored our first human kill on some random, really jacked settler who had weirdly small moobs for his chest muscle to moob ratio. He just made me uncomfortable really, so we kind of had to shoot him. But hey, on the bright side, we got a key to somewhere random. Gotta love that. Okay, jokes aside, I do actually like that you can craft weapons and armor from scratch. Congrats, Fallout 76. You made a single good change. I went into the Wayward and there was some guy holding up the bartender. So I just decided to shoot at him because let's be honest, This is Fallout 76, I don't really give a shit about having a morally good character. Oh, and while I was talking to the waiter, this one ghoul was just staring me down, and it was just so Fallout 76. There's no other way to describe it. But she told me to build a sign that says Crane Treasure Incorporated in my camp, then go up to a radio tower, then broadcast the tape, creatively named Broadcast Tape, and then go back to the sign, and then talk to the people who show up. Riveting gameplay, I say, because we were supposed to get the bandits' attention. Now, I know what you're thinking. If we already have access to the radio broadcast, then why bother with the sign, and why not just say that Crane was at the radio tower or some other location? And the answer to that is, I don't know, and neither does Todd. I then went to meet up with the British Heart Foundation, and oh Jesus Christ, this legitimately looks like it's been ripped from Fallout New Vegas.
Wait a minute. Are you one of those people who was in Vault 76? I knew it! I could tell just by looking at you.
Yeah, no shit you can. I'm wearing the Vault 76 jumpsuit.
A disease.
Make yourself a
I was attacked by...
Okay then. Never fuck with charity workers, I guess.
Seems like a fine idea. So, hi, I am Kesha.
Random explosion time! Woo! Also, Fallout 76 has a battle pass now, because Bethesda's getting down with the cool kids. So, you're in a wasteland after the bombs dropped. You've got a whole new world full of interesting things to explore. And what does the game want you to do? Well, it wants you to assess water quality. Amazing gameplay, guys! Also, I just want to point out that when this game first came out and there were no NPCs, they still made you assess the water quality for the grand total of 0 people who were still alive. Although now, there's 1 person near the river. So it's worth it now, I guess. We then went back to our camp to check in on our stupid little sign project, where we met a treasure hunter who was pretty useless, and so we popped a cap in his ass, as the cool kids say. We then met with some guy whose name we correctly guessed as Davey, but then some other guy who was with him thought we were working together, and then that guy started shooting at Davey, but then when I defended Davey and shot at the guy who was shooting at him, Davey then randomly decides to attack me, despite the fact I actually defended him. And I mean, sure, I technically made him get shot, but like, this guy knows I have a gun, and he just has a bat. What is even going on anymore? Now, I got to the gang leader and we thoroughly butchered him. Though the game made us send a message to the gang, which seems a bit odd, considering that the gang seems pretty, well, dead to me. Oh, and also, you know that key to somewhere random we got? Well, we get the ability to make our own vaults now, which is pretty cool, I guess. It's basically like your camp, but it's a permanent base that you access through your camp. Rather than your camp, which only works like half the time when you try to place it, and the game just decides to put half your camp in storage, and then you have to replace it all. Hence why I never bothered building a camp, and just bummed off of someone else. I then claimed a workshop, which lets you harvest the materials which are there, at the cost of having to defend your workshop, and having to build extractors to get them out. And honestly, is it worth it? Maybe in the late game, when you've got loads of materials. I don't know, but for now at least, I didn't really feel like I gained a whole lot, and I definitely lost more than I gained. But what is Fallout 76 without other people? Well, it's a shit version of Fallout 4, so I invited someone else to experience this with me, and yeah, it's still a shit version of Fallout 4. But regardless, we both wanted to see the Nuka-Cola Travelling Fair, so we set off to the ash heap. Even though I was only a level 8, and they were a level 4. Jesus Christ, we're gonna fucking die. We then claimed another workshop, though he didn't actually decide to build anything on it, just for the sweet, sweet cocaine known as plans. Oh, also, I went back to my workshop to get some of the materials because I didn't want the stuff in my extractors getting robbed. But then I noticed a rather odd design decision, because either when you need your materials or when your camp gets attacked and you need to defend it, workshop, sorry, not camp, you can fast travel there for free, but you have to pay caps to get back to where you were, meaning that you either have to be in a team so that you can fast travel back to someone in your team for free, stay close to the workshop forever while you have it active, or give up tons of caps. It's just very odd because it disincentivizes claiming workshops, which is quite a big part of the game. But when I got back from getting my materials, there was a Grafton monster, one of the strongest goddamn enemies in the whole game. Now, I said strongest, by no means hardest, because you can just cheese him, as his pathing does seem pretty balked. So about 100 shots later, we killed him, and we got a gun that we can't even use. I love that. And we'd been wandering through the ash heap for quite a while at this point, but then we saw, I kid you not, a massive Deathclaw. But this being Fall Over 76, we could just completely abuse his AI, and even though it took loads of bullets, we eventually got, you guessed it baby, a gun we couldn't use. Maybe this game is punishing me for cheesing all the enemies. And, to be honest, fair enough, yeah. But then our workshop got attacked, and we got another top tier Bethesda moment, as there was this one really weird mole rat who wouldn't stop burrowing, and you only had about a second to shoot him before he burrowed again. I mean, look at this! We then got back to the ash heap, and I saw absolutely buttloads of vertibirds. Or vertibots if you really hate yourself today. And then, to top off the icing in this shit cake, my controller batteries ran out, and we didn't even manage to find Nuka World. If that disappointment doesn't sum up the Fallout 76 experience, then I don't know what does. Well, that's the end of episode 1. Episode 2 may or may not come to pass at some point, I don't know. But God bless Todd Howard for making this absolutely terrible game, which has gotten a bit less terrible now, I'll admit. But I would still never choose to play this if I wasn't making a video or playing it with a friend. Anyway, adios amigos. I then wandered into the camp of this guy who was ridiculously high level, and I found a slot machine. So of course I just had to feed my gambling addiction for a little while, and then we went back to the Wayward, and started going to finish off the gang leader.